Hey, greetings gamers, HNSN, and welcome back to another video. Now today's topic is going to be about Nintendo Switch Online, more specifically, the systems on it that I want to see. As you guys know, Nintendo 64 and Gamecube are coming later this month, and we already have NES and SNES, so it adds to those two. That means we now have 4 consoles, 3 from Nintendo, 1 from Sega. So today I'm going to go through the Sega and Nintendo systems that I want to see come to the service in the future, no matter how likely they are. Anyway, though, that's it for this intro, but let's get on with the video. Alright, so next up, well, starting off, we have the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. This is something that I've wanted on the Switch for a long time. I definitely hope it happens sooner, as I haven't played that many Game Boy or Game Boy Colors, because I didn't grow up with the system, because the handheld systems I played growing up were the DS and the 3DS, so I didn't really get to play much of the Game Boy Color, or the Game Boy Advance. But I'd love to see the Game Boy Color both come, because they have some great games probably that I am missing out on, and from what I've seen, the Game Boy and Game Boy Color have a pretty good library, as the Game Boy has stuff like Super Mario Land 1 and 2, which I've never played before. They have Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, which I have played. They have, and the Game Boy Color has Oracle of Ages and Seasons, and Game Boy has Dr. Mario on it, and stuff. And the list goes on. And it'd be interesting to see them, definitely. And yeah. And it would definitely be a good way to start off handheld consoles on the Switch, considering that the Switch is a handheld console, so it makes sense for them to put a handheld system on Switch Online. But speaking of that, we have the sequel to these two consoles coming up. Alright. So next up we have the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance is when they missed out on the most. I mean, I've played a good amount of Game Boy Advance games. I've played Superstar Saga, I've played the Pokemon games, but sadly I've yet to play the Minish Cap, Metroid Fusion, Advance Wars, and I've played the original Fire Emblem, even though I never finished it. Eventually I'm going to, and I need to play the Sacred Stones. Anyway, though, and at some points, I gotta play Mother 3. Anyway, though, the Game Boy Advance has a lot of great games. Some I've played, some I haven't, but the console would offer a lot of good games on Switch Online, definitely. I'd love to see it for that reason. The Game Boy Advance, well, not as popular as the first two consoles, Game Boy Advance is probably one of the highest praised Nintendo handhelds, and it has a pretty good game selection that would work really great on the Switch. So yeah, this would be a perfect addition to the console, and I would absolutely love to see it. And if we do, hopefully we'll also get some special features like the e-reader feature to it, and yeah, the Game Boy Advance is a really good system with some good games. So yeah. Alright, so next up we have Gamecube. Moving from Nintendo handhelds to home consoles, Gamecube is next. Now, not too long ago, I made a video about the Gamecube, and for its 20th anniversary, as I love the Gamecube a ton. It's my second favorite home console. well, it's my second favorite game console of all time. The GameCube just has so many amazing games and so many cool features to it that I just love. And I love to see all its games come. Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, yeah, and Mario Kart Double Dash, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Pikmin 2. GameCube just has so many good hits, and concerned that the GameCube didn't sell great. I mean, it didn't sell terribly like the Wii U, but it sold okay, and it didn't really sell too great. But the GameCube still sold meh, but well, the console sold meh, so it sold okay. However, it's an amazing console with so many great games. It is a masterpiece of a console, and I would love to see it for that reason. Plus, we've all been wanting GameCube games. And Nintendo doesn't re-release their GameCube games that much, so it would make perfect sense to have this over for them to finally do it. Alright, so switching from Nintendo to Sega for the rest of the video. Next up we have the Sega Master System. Now we're getting Sega Genesis over to Switch Online next, which is the... And, yeah, Sega Genesis is coming next. It's coming over to Switch Online next. And the thing is, Sega Genesis is the successor to this. We don't have the predecessor, the Master System. Now it makes sense that they're doing Genesis first, because Genesis is way more popular, and it's Sega's most popular console. As the Master System, which was basically their answer to the NES, the Master System sold terribly. I mean, it sold really good in Europe. In Europe, it actually sold really good in Europe. However, in the rest of the world, it did not do good. It actually sold pretty bad outside of Europe, and which is sad. However, Master System games did release on the Wii Virtual Console, so it would make sense to bring this over to the Switch, definitely. Now, and I'd love to see it happen. And the thing is, I never owned a Master System, so I'm not too familiar with the console, and I haven't really played a lot of Master System games. So yeah, I'd love to see the Master System come over. The Master System is a console that seems and looks underrated, and it probably has some good games I'm missing out on. And stuff I never got to play, considering that I've mostly played NES games out of that generation, because I'm more familiar with the NES, so yeah. But Master System, I'd love to see it come over to Switch Online, considering this is the predecessor to Genesis, which is coming. Alright, so next up we have the Sega Game Gear. We went from a handheld, not handheld, but we went from a home console Sega platform that is the predecessor to the Genesis. However, Nintendo, actually not Nintendo, but Sega also made a predecessor. They made a competitor to the Game Boy with the Game Gear. The Game Gear it's not as forgotten as, let's say, the Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, or the Master System. However, our Game Boy still overshadowed it by a lot, especially with Pokemon and stuff, and Mario Land 2 and stuff. But anyway, though, the Game Gear, from what I've seen, looks pretty good, and I actually have a Game Gear, even though I don't think I've ever played on it before. But yeah, the Game Gear looks to be a pretty good console, and it probably has some good stuff I'm missing out on, probably, even though its game library isn't as huge as, let's say, the Dreamcast or the Genesis, but the Game Gear would be cool on Switch Online, and it'd be nice to have Sega's handheld platform on the Switch. That would be really interesting, honestly. So yeah. But now let's move on to there's something that isn't a console, but I do want to talk about it. Alright, so the next two things I'm talking about, they're not actually game consoles, however, they're add-ons, they're basically expansions to a game console coming. So we have the Sega Genesis coming, right? However, later on in the system's lifetime, Sega released these two attachments to the console, these two big add-ons, basically. The first was the Sega CD, which was a thing that would basically use game CDs for games like Night Trap and Sonic CD, and then they also have the 32X, which that was basically a cartridge-based expansion with 32-bit games, and that was their first foray into 32-bit before the Saturn came in 1995, or 1994 for Japan. But yeah, 32X would be really nice too, and both of them would be pretty cool to add to Genesis, and they would be part of Sega Genesis, considering that they're add-ons to the console. And yeah, it would be really nice to have Sega CD and 32X. Alright, so next up we have the Sega Saturn. Now, Sega Saturn's another console that I'm not familiar with because I never owned a Saturn, my dad never owned a Saturn, so yeah. Just like Master System, I never owned a Saturn, so yeah. However, Sega Saturn probably has some good games that I missed out on, so it'd be nice to have them on Switch Online. Plus, the Sega Saturn is what many consider an underrated console due to it being heavily overshadowed by the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation. As there's the thing, the Sega Saturn sold terribly, and however, it sold pretty well in Japan. It did really well in Japan, but it sold terribly elsewhere. It definitely had to come in with it basically being kind of rushed. It was both released in September of 1995 outside of Japan. However, Sega wanted people to buy that instead of the PlayStation, so they released it for $100 more than the PlayStation in May of 1995, right after E3. The day E3 happened, they shadow dropped it in stores. In fact, stores just refused to sell it because the console was rushed. So yeah, which is unfortunate because Saturn probably has some good games that I have missed out on, so I'd love to see the console come to Switch Online. Alright, so the last console we're talking about today is Sega Dreamcast. And to be honest, I would love to see this because I love the Dreamcast. It actually might be one of my favorite game consoles of all time. Dreamcast had so many good games. Some great ones I've played, like Crazy Taxi. I love Crazy Taxi 1 and 2. And there's also a third one on the original Xbox. And Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are pretty good. Jet Set Radio. I love Jet Set Radio. That game is very good. Soul Calibur is a great game. And I haven't played Shenmue, but I really want to. Same for Skies of Arcadia. And I own a couple others like Pro Bass Fishing and Space Channel 5. Those I want to get to eventually. Yeah, Dreamcast had some really killer games, even though the console sold terribly. In fact, this console sold terribly worldwide that it killed Sega financially almost. And yeah, this console almost ruined Sega. In fact, Sega could have gone bankrupt because this console sold bad, but they didn't. You wanna know why? Because they went third party. yeah, Sega went third party because they realized their consoles just were not selling well. So, but despite that, the Dreamcast was a great console. Despite it being Sega's last home console, although it was short-lived due to the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, since it released just 2 years before them, so and those consoles overshadowed them because they were much better consoles. But still, Dreamcast has some great games, and I'd love to see it come to Switch Online. Anyway though, that is all I have to say in this video. I will see you guys next time for more Agent S out.